Welcome to the Reality of Herbal Therapy podcast, all about your urinary system. Okay, so I started the going to do a series of podcasts on the different systems of the body because that's essential to learning what formulas to use and when and how and why and basically if you nourish the system, you're going to have much better results instead of chasing after symptoms or diseases or whatever. You want to nourish whatever system is being affected. So today I wanted to talk about the urinary system. So this is one of the most taxed systems here for people nowadays. And there's several reasons why the system is very taxed. So the urinary system basically consists of your bladder, your kidneys, and the connections between them. And kind of talk a little bit about, because they're also the reproductive system is right next to it. It's like kind of squished up to it. And they sort of like the urinary system is a much greater priority system than the reproductive system, especially as we age. So those systems get compromised. They sort of like pull from each other. So we'll kind of like talk about a bit how they affect each other. So when we talk about urinary system, there's several of the formulas, and depending on what's going on with the body, there are different things. So I wanted to kind of like talk about why the urinary system is such a taxed and overworked system and why so many people have issues with it. Generally, when people have lower back pain, a lot of times it's attributed to the kidneys. Kidneys are overworked. Kidneys have problems. Like for me, for example, I have misshapen kidneys. One of them's really small and one of them's really big. And the small one does 90% of the work and the big one does 10% of the work. So have a grandson, he's only got one kidney. So there's physical issues that could cause that. But then there's also, we as Americans don't drink enough water. While I was in Oregon, water became a non-priority. I was never extremely thirsty. Now that I'm back in New Mexico, I can't get enough water. I'm always thirsty and always needing a drink. And there's a certain amount of water I need to drink, and I'm still not getting enough water, even though I'm here in the dry desert. So water is very key to the health of the urinary system. It keeps the kidneys and the bladder working. Basically, the kidneys have to flush out toxins, and if there's no water, they can't flush out the toxins. The toxins sit in the kidneys, and that can lead to infection, stones of all sorts, just all sorts of issues. So water, there's all sorts of different things on water, but just make sure you're getting enough water. Another thing is, as a lot of people, instead of drinking water, they drink other things. Sodas is a really big one, and soda is dehydrating. So when your body has to process through the soda, basically your kidneys have to do, for 1 cup of soda, your kidneys have to do what it would have to do for 20 cups of water. So there's a huge amount of work that your kidneys have to do to process and move soda through the body. So soda is very damaging and harsh on the body. And it's also got a lot of chemicals that can basically dissolve calcium. So then once it hits the kidneys, the calcium is in solution. So then it balls up, and that's how you get kidney stones. And kidney stones, if you've asked anybody, they're very, very painful. And I'll even talk a little bit about what you can do, some home remedies for kidney stones, because a lot of times, the doctor's like, here's a pain medicine to help you get through the pain or whatever. And those actually are pretty rough on the kidneys. So it kind of kill the kidneys while you're trying to deal with the kidney problem. So let's talk about formulas. So of course, the first thing you're going to want to think about is Bladney. Bladney is essential for kidney and bladder health. Whatever you've got going on with the kidneys or the bladder, Bladney helps. So Bladney has cleavers, corn silk, gravel root, juniper, marshmallow root, and ursi in it. And so those herbs together basically help feed and nourish the kidneys and the bladder. So parsley, the parsley that's in it, and the ursi, those are really, really helpful with kidney stones. Any stones that you have, those will help. Basically, parsley basically smooths out, because if you've ever seen what a kidney stone looks like, it looks like a ball covered in spikes, and those spikes get lodged. They poke and tear through the kidneys and the tubes that connect to the bladder, and they poke and tear as they go through the bladder, and so that's where you get all that pain and the blood and everything. So parsley wears down those sharp points, and ursi also helps kind of like break up the calcium of the stone, so it's really, really helpful. If you've got stones and you need to get rid of them really fast, one of the quickest ways to do that is get fresh parsley. And we've talked a lot about it in other podcasts and other places on the website, and I'll put links down in the show notes. Is you get parsley, cut it up and into little basic, cut it up, put it in boiling water for about 15 minutes, steep it and make a tea. The more you can drink of that, the better, the faster it will wear off those spikes, and it will really help with the pain of kidney stones. So that's like a natural way to deal with kidney stones. So Bladney, go to Bladney first. 99% of the time, whatever the issue is, Bladney will help take care of it. If you've got bladder infection, kidney infection, urinary tract infection, UTIs, whatever, Bladney will really help. If you've got any of those infections, like bladder infection, kidney infection, then you're going to want to add fection to it. And those two together are amazing when it comes to any kidney infection, UTI, bladder infection type of thing. So taking Bladney along with fection, and generally there's a lot of painful urination. There could be some blood with a urinary tract infection. And what we suggest is 6 Bladney and 2 fection every half hour until the pain subsides. And once the pain is gone, then cut back to 3 Bladney, 1 fection every few hours. And you want to stay on it for a while, because basically once you've knocked out the infection, it's still there. So keep taking Bladney for at least a week to 2 weeks after you've gotten rid of the infection. So fection is amazing for if you've got an infection in the bladder, urinary tract, anything like that. Okay, so earlier I'd mentioned the reproductive systems. So on a woman, their ovaries and the uterus basically sit right next to the kidneys and on top of the bladder. So when a woman's pregnant, she has to urinate often because of the baby's basically sitting on the bladder, using it as a trampoline, as some women say. So if there's any female issues that go along with urinary tract issues, you'll want to take tonic F with it. That is very helpful and soothing for a woman if she's got painful menstruation, anything like that. You want to nourish those two systems because they're right next to each other. So for a man, the opposite is true. Well, not opposite, but there's basically the prostate, what helps with all sorts of reproductive functions and stuff, basically wraps around the tubes that go from the bladder to be urinated out. So any prostate issues, any issues with urination and stuff like that, then a man would want to take Hapio. That will help with anything like that. And then also Man Up. So those two are really helpful for a man that is having urinary system issues. If you've got issues that aren't going away or aren't healing quickly, then taking Tissue Mend along with the Bladney will make a huge difference. Tissue Mend basically it's one of the formulas that's taggable. So any formula that's intended for a specific place, you take tissue mend with it at the same time, and it'll go to that same place. So tissue mend along with bladney, it'll go to the bladder, the kidneys. Tissue mend along with arthrite, it'll go to the joints. Tissue mend along with Hayaz will help the upper respiratory system. Tissue mend with ammonia will help the lungs and stuff. So tissue mend, anytime it's taking longer than it should to get better, or if you're just wanting to get over it faster, taking a little bit of tissue mend along with bladney really makes a difference. So cleansing herbs to go along with bladney. So hediondia, another one that is taggable that follows wherever, and detoxylation are also very important for cleansing the urinary system. Taking hediondia and detoxylation along with bladney are really helpful to cleanse out anything. Detoxylation is amazing for heavy metals and things that basically can get stuck in the body. Detoxylation will actually attach to it and wrap around it, and then your body can move it out. So if you've been exposed to heavy metals or molds, funguses, things that are really your body's having a hard time getting rid of, taking detoxylation along with bladney will help move that out and help cleanse the system. Hediondia is just an overall cleansing herb. It basically helps clean any molds, funguses, growths, anything that your body kind of like gets into a pocket and just sort of like wants to stay there. Hediondia will help dissolve that and move it out. So if you have issues with your bladder or kidneys and there's a lot of toxic buildup, taking one hediondia along with it will make a huge difference. And another thing to go along with that goes with any of the systems is you want to make sure that you're not deficient in vitamins and minerals. Vitamin B12 helps your body with urination, helps the start and the stop. So the B and C complex is really, really helpful. The multivitamin packs are really wonderful for any issue. And the nice thing about a lot of people ask about, should I take tissue mend along with the vitamins, is that the tissue mend is in the vitamin pack. So in the vitamin pack, you've got a B and C, a C complex, the healthy cell, and 2 tissue mend capsules in each packet. And so those basically give you all of the vitamins that your body needs to function properly and what it needs. So the vitamin pack is really helpful if you've got multiple systems that are having problems or multiple things going on. Sometimes just adding the vitamin pack will give your body what it needs, the nutrients it needs to be healthy and to function properly. And then one other along the vitamins and minerals is the PM minerals. Magnesium is wonderful and essential for muscles. Basically, the way we urinate, there's a muscle that below the bladder so once the bladder releases, we have a muscle that can basically squeeze that to hold the urine in until we're ready to urinate, and then it relaxes. So magnesium basically makes it so the muscles have the strength to squeeze it and hold it, and also to relax when it needs to, but also to squeeze it again. So like if you have incontinence or, a little bit of dripping after you urinate, that sort of thing, minerals will help with that along with bladney. So those are like all of the formulas that go along with the urinary system. So I wanted to talk a little bit about bladney along with some other things. So the first one is arthritis. Generally, there's lots of different kinds of arthritis and different things, but if you have arthritis where there's a buildup of calcium in the joints, arthrite will really help to dissolve that calcium. But if it has nowhere to go, so once you have get that calcium out of the joint, arthrite will get it out of the joints. It puts it into the blood. Then the blood's got to take it through the kidneys, and the kidneys have got to deal with it. So bladney really helps to move any any buildup that arthritis moves into the blood to be cleansed out of the body. The bladder will help get it out. Arthritis helps move it from the joints to where it can be gotten rid of. Also, anytime there's certain buildup in the muscles so like for fibromyalgia or painful muscles, things like that, generally that's uric crystals, it's crystallized urine that hasn't been able to get out of the body. So arthritis and bladder together will help move. Arthritis again moves those crystals to the blood. Bladder helps to wash them out of the body. So the one other thing that bladder does in most cases for men, if they have high blood pressure, then bladder will actually help lower the blood pressure to where it's at a good spot. So if you're wanting to lower your blood pressure, bladder, and it doesn't lower it to a dangerous level, basically it puts it at a correct level. So if your blood pressure is really, really low or really, really high, bladder will bring it back to where it needs to be 90% of the time. So that's where, so in 10% of women, it will do that for women. So that offset of 10%, 90% of men respond to bladder to help with blood pressure issues. The 10% that don't, we use Nerquilizer. So for women, 10% of the time, bladder will fix blood pressure issues, but 90% of the time, Nerquilizer will. And sometimes you have to do both. Like if you're not sure if you're in the 90% or the 10%, which one you're supposed to be, sometimes if you do both, it will help take care of it. So that is the urinary system. And those are the forms I suggest to use with it. If you have questions, let me know, and we'll talk to you next time.
It is not the intent of professional herbal instruction or any persons associated therewith to diagnose or prescribe. The intent is only to offer herbal information for your consideration. In the event you use this information without your doctor's approval, you are prescribing for yourself, which is your God-given right. But professional herbal instruction or any persons associated herewith assume no responsibility. The claims and statements made on this podcast have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.